Have you heard of the phrase, you'll own nothing and you'll be happy? Well, that's basically what's planned. They want your house. And yesterday there was a budget, Jeremy Hunt's budget. In fact, it wasn't really Jeremy Hunt's budget. It was the World Economic Forum's budget that was dictated to Jeremy Hunt, and all he had to do was announce it. And what I'm going to do in this video is to explain how they intend to steal your home. How they're going to do it? Well, the simple answer is debt. If you can get somebody into debt, you have them over a barrel. And the globalists understand that all too well. So over the last 30 years, there's been property shows that have tried to convince people that the way to get rich is to borrow as much money as possible and to pile it all into property. So as a result of this mania, you could call it a mass formation psychosis. Households are already carrying way too much debt. And then on top of that, you've got other liabilities like student loans and also car loans. I remember in the past when most people used to own their car outright, whereas today most people lease it, which is basically taking on a debt-based liability. So what I'm saying is that debt levels are already way too high, and we're now in an environment where interest rates are beginning to rise. So a higher interest rate means that you have to pay more back in interest, and many people just won't be able to make that, and as a result they'll end up being repossessed. Their homes will be repossessed by the bank. There might be some people who borrowed on a fixed rate mortgage, and those people maybe are sitting there thinking, well, I don't need to worry about the economic environment. I would just say to those people that they do need to worry, because they're going to be affected by this inflation that's increasing the cost of living. So even if their mortgage repayments aren't rising, their food bills, their electricity bills, their gas bills, everything else is rising. So as time goes on, they're going to find it harder and harder and harder to make their monthly mortgage repayments, even if the interest element of those repayments is fixed. So yesterday, Jeremy Hunt announced that he's going to freeze tax thresholds for 6 years. Now, the tax threshold is the amount of money that you can earn before you start paying tax. Now, at the moment, we've got inflation of 10%, so people are going to need pay rises of at least that much, even to stay where they are, which means a higher proportion of their income is now going to be taxed, even though in real terms they're no better off. And the tax thresholds being frozen also applies to the 40% tax band. So there'll be now more people, as time goes on, who end up paying tax at 40% who previously didn't. So, like, why does all of this matter? Well, answer is it's going to be harder and harder and harder for people with mortgages to make those repayments. And if you can't make the repayments, the banks will come in and repossess your property, which is exactly what they want. They want to destroy the middle class and transfer the UK's housing stock from ordinary individuals like me and you over to the banks and the other agents of globalization. So what about people that own their own home that don't have a mortgage? Are they going to be okay? And, you know, to that I would just say just be careful, because another big change announced in this autumn statement yesterday by Jeremy Hunt was that it was sharp increases in council tax. So when I was living in Guildford, this was like over 2 years ago now, living in a pretty crummy house, my council tax bill was already £2,000. So what's going to happen, I think, is that people won't be able to afford to pay their council tax. Debts to the council will mount up, and guess what? They will apply interest to your unpaid council tax bills. And I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility that local authorities will start repossessing people's homes because they'll say, well, you owe us 15 grand of council tax, and you know, we want that money back, and we're going to seize your property. Another big announcement yesterday was that pensioners and people on welfare are going to get a 10.1% increase in their welfare benefits. So how's that going to be financed? Well, answer is more money printing. What will that mean? More inflation. What will that mean? An even higher cost of living. What will that mean? Well, it'll be even harder for people to make their mortgage repayments. So it's all going back to this premise that I'm putting out here, which is you will own nothing and you will be happy. They are after your house. Make no mistake about it. So some people would say, well, that's just a conspiracy theory, isn't it? Like, why would big banks and financial institutions want your house? You know, some people ask those sorts of really dumb questions, you know, like, why wouldn't somebody who's obsessed with money want more of it? Why would a psychopath want to do psychopathic things? But, you know, for those people, what I'll do now is to explain to you why the big banks and financial institutions want to own your property. The simple answer, apart from greed, is that there's a financial reset on its way. And that financial reset is central bank digital currencies, which will mean an end to private banking. So at the moment, you have a bank account with NatWest or Danske Bank or Barclays or whoever. You might have a mortgage with HSBC, or maybe a car loan with Lloyds, or a savings account with Santander. Now, in the not too distant future, all of that is going to disappear. The entire private banking system is going to evaporate. And what it's going to be replaced by is a central bank digital currency. So when CBDCs come in, every man, woman and child is going to have a bank account, a digital one, no cash obviously, with the central bank in your country. So in Britain, people will have a digital wallet open for them at the Bank of England. So, for example, if you're working and you're earning a wage, your employer will pay your wage directly into your digital bank account with the Bank of England. So in the future, if you want a car loan or a mortgage or any other form of credit, you'll have to apply directly to the central bank. So this might sound far-fetched, but it's something very similar has happened before in an analog form under communism, where the government owned the banking system in former DDR, communist Russia, communist Czech Republic, etc. So a good question to ask at this point would be, why would the likes of HSBC, Barclays, Nordea, etc., why would these turkeys vote for Christmas? Why would these guys go along with Klaus Schwab's Great Reset and the adoption of programmable central bank digital currencies if it meant the end of their existing business models? And the simple answer to that question is that they intend to move into property. Their plan is to become the owners of residential property, and they want you to rent from them. So that's their income stream. It's going to be, not going to be any more private ownership of property anymore. You will own nothing and you will be happy renting from NatWest, Barclays, Santander. They might change their names or have invent new subsidiary companies and stuff like that, but that's basically the plan. And I'll post some links up. They've already got that plan, or working on that plan already. That might sound far-fetched, but they're already preparing now for this new business model. So one more time, why is this budget really important? I think the simple answer is they want your home, and they'll do that by getting you into debt, or by increasing the cost of living, increasing interest rates. They'll make it even harder for you to repay the debts that you currently have. And then they will come in and claim your home. They'll say, you owe us money, you have to discharge the debt. And to do that, you have to transfer the title of your property from you to us. And the us are going to be basically these entities that are currently running the private financial system. So what we're talking about here is the end of the middle class, the destruction of the middle class. Again, was it Mark Twain who said, history rhymes. It might not repeat, but it rhymes, something like that. So this is exactly what happened under communism and also fascism as well. So how long will this process take? My thought is that it won't happen overnight. This current situation that we're in now, it might last for the best part of 10 years. So what I'm anticipating is a slow, gradual squeeze. And I'm also expecting interest rates to hit double figures and beyond, and to stay there for a very, very long time, until people are properly squeezed and they agree to hand over the keys of their property to their creditors. So what I want to ask people now is, do you still trust the government? Or do you still think it's just a coincidence theory? You know, like destroying the economy for Divock 91, the deadly disease which in Britain killed people on average who were 82 years old, and that more than 99.8% of the cases, you know, these people survived. So do you still think that was just, they just cocked up, you know, do you actually really still seriously believe that? And how about the Britney Spears coercion? Are you still thinking that was just a cock up? And how about the sudden pivot to Ukraine? You know, lockdowns ended, Ukraine war started virtually the next day. Is that just a coincidence theory? Are you happy that your taxes are being used to fund the Azov battalion with their interesting insignia? Yeah, and what about this 15-minute city thing? All of that was on the World Economic Forum's website literally years ago, and now it's coming in Oxford and in Canterbury. They don't want you to drive, do they? You know, and another announcement in the budget that went largely unreported was a 20% increase in fuel duty that's coming in March. So is this just a cock-up, or is it part of some sort of strategy designed to promote, we could call it, let's be charitable, we could call it sustainable development, which basically means, sorry plebs, you're not allowed to drive your car. Or as Boris Johnson's dad said on GB News the other day, he's quite keen on national plans, and if those national plans mean telling some people that they can't fly anymore, well then that just must be done. So is this just all a cock-up? Is it all random? Is it just all a coincidence theory? Or are you now recognising what I was telling you 2 years ago, that something is badly wrong, and it's now time to start to think a little bit more critically and connecting the dots? The government is not your friend. The government doesn't always act in your best interests. These people believe that the earth is overpopulated. These people believe that we're consuming too much and we're burning through the planet's supply of finite non-renewable resources. So you think about what you would do if you wanted to tackle that so-called problem. And if you do that, suddenly you'll see the pattern. The dots will all connect up and you'll see the big picture. So what can you do about it? Well, the simple answer is wise up and stop cooperating. You know, are you going to be one of these people that take off all their clothes and walk into this room with nice hot showers? Or are you going to wise up and recognise that these people do not want the best for you? So withdraw your cooperation. Do that now. I think the other thing that I would say is, just on a very practical level, is if you have debt, try to pay it off. Another thing that I would say is withdraw from their Babylon system. So try to find ways of enjoying life that don't involve spending money. And if you do spend money, make sure you spend it with small independent businesses rather than these big corporations that want to do you in, quite literally. There's too many of you, or they want to enslave you. So you think about that. And then the other thing that I would say is to recognise that we are in a battle between good and evil, and we're being tested at the moment, and it's now time for you to withdraw from that Babylon system and get close and establish a relationship, if you don't have one already, with our Lord and Saviour, Jesus Christ. So what would this new economic and social system, what should we call it? About 10 years ago now, I remember listening to Max Kaiser on that channel that you're not allowed to watch anymore, RT. There you go, I said it. And he referred to neo-feudalism. He said that that's what we've got to look forward to in the future. And I'm right. So what was feudalism? Well, it was a medieval system where people didn't own anything. The land that they lived on was owned by aristocrats, the lord of the manor. And this is the system that they want to re-establish. So ordinary people like me and you will not own private property, especially the houses that we live in. We're going to be moved about, and if necessary, like moved into a pod or whatever. We're going to have no control, no ownership whatsoever. And this system is exactly as Max Kaiser described it, neo-feudalism. I suppose you could call it technological feudalism based on AI control of us. So that's the end of this. I think I've said what I wanted to say. So God bless.